Today is New Year's Eve. If you know me personally, or you've seen my Instagram page, you might have seen this drawing, which was my last drawing of 2019, mainly because I had finished the drawing an hour before the start of 2020. I remember bothering to record the illustration, not knowing I'd be able to use it today. This drawing was also the first digital drawing I had ever completed, unless you count these dainty-old incomplete bucket tool drawings I had done in Microsoft Paint one too many years past. This drawing was truly a parody of my excitement. You see, I originally wasn't going to be drawing on an iPad for digital art. I was aiming to have a drawing tablet I could sync up to a computer. But long story short, what truly was God's doing, that didn't happen, and I'm incredibly grateful it didn't. For what I didn't know was this iPad would prove more useful than what I could have hoped for. From the start of 2020, I was taking an art class where I learned about perspective, drawing backgrounds, and the breakdown of human anatomy. Despite the beginning of the global pandemic COVID-19 interrupting my ability to attend that class, I still remembered what I was taught and was able to continue applying that knowledge throughout my artwork. Things got a little rocky though after this first for digital art. After that illustration, I stopped drawing digitally. Granted, I would start artworks, I would not make any effort to complete them. It wasn't until I had made a promise that I couldn't break that I began drawing digitally again. In February, I made a promise to illustrate the cover art for an anthology containing short stories my friends and I had written. I promised that I would receive their drawing contributions to the cover art, then trace and color them into the illustration so that despite social distancing, everyone could still be a part of the cover. This meant I had to draw a vehicle, a background, multiple characters, and so much more on a software I had only received in March, known as Procreate. Because of that, I really began practicing drawing digitally. The more I practiced, the more natural it became for me to actually finish a drawing digitally. From the end of 2019, I started to really explore going outside of my comfort zone. Before then, every drawing I drew was always the same, no color, no life, and I only drew in like 10 different forms. One day, I decided to try out a 6-pack skin tone set of markers I had heard about, known as Copic markers. After that, my illustrations grew color, variety, and hundreds of new forms. When 2020 had begun, I really started exploring different variations of art. It all started with trying new mediums. My excitement for my art grew, and it was starting to show. One day, I received the opportunity to teach an art class to a young girl, and I gladly accepted. Growing up, I never had much of an artistic community. I only knew of one other person with the same liking for animation as me, my cousin, Kat. I wasn't really taught any classes, so I was pretty alone when it came to being an aspiring animator. Knowing about the search for finding an artistic outlet helped me understand how to teach my student in ways I wished I could have been taught growing up. The class didn't last too long, sadly, for then COVID hit America and it was no longer safe to teach. But during the time I had taught the class, I learned a lot from it. I learned ways to teach art, what reaches people, and how to break what can be daunting in art down into less intimidating steps. Not only that, but my student had really challenged me. She wanted to draw animals, lots and lots of animals, which meant I had to learn how to draw pandas, foxes, seagulls, and so much more. That's when I grew back into my love for drawing animals. I also learned how to explore realism versus cartoonism. It was truly educational, and my love for teaching and sharing art grew into what is today my YouTube channel. Growing my art, drawing things I never used to draw, and exploring new mediums really helped improve my artwork this year. Even with all these artistic things that I've done in 2020, there's still a few things I haven't mentioned, one of which was drawing backgrounds. In March, I had began watching a cartoon with some very interesting backgrounds. It inspired me to have a try at it myself. So before I knew it, I started going above and beyond my comfort zone and drew backgrounds on Procreate, which, let me just say, was a nightmare for a person like me just starting out. But with time and practice, I developed techniques to complete and total advantage of the perspective guide in Procreate, and then learned time-efficient ways to color backgrounds. That's where I learned about digital painting, one of my new favorite ways to create backgrounds. Then, of course, there was this YouTube channel. I was drawing banners, thumbnails, animating intros. I was filming, editing, playing with sounds, playing with effects, and trying to perfect my work in lighting and sound. I was constantly avoiding the easy way into editing. Playing with banners and thumbnails helped me grow in learning about contrast, deciding what I want to stand out, how I can draw in attention in my design, and simply having fun messing with color. I won't deny it, my first few thumbnails were kinda gray. Another way I was able to explore in my art was in writing. I was able to work on honing and crafting storylines, as well as being on top of writing down whatever ideas came to mind. And of course, my favorite part about being able to work on my writing was collaborating with others to review my storylines, such as a short film I'm working on. I've enjoyed writing with others as well. Cough, Abby. Now to dive a little bit into what you can see is clearly a redraw, a whole year difference of my first digital drawing for New Year versus this year's digital drawing for New Year's Eve. As my dad said when he saw my redraw of last year's New Year drawing, it's a day and night difference. Despite the coronavirus taking over the world, locking us in our homes, it didn't prevent us all from creating. Being able to review what I've done artistically in the past year has proven that for me. I'm grateful to see that this year's over, and I look forward to seeing what next year throws at us. I also can't wait to see where I go in my next journey. With the new year, I can begin working towards my animation goals even more, perhaps finishing some animations and adding more to my portfolio, as well as once again stepping out of my comfort zone and exceeding the realm of 2D. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck in life and in art. Bye! And have a Happy New Year!